Hello there YouTube, this is Wheelchair21, and on today's rolling review, we are looking at the Bandai Super Mini-Pla Hyper Agent Gridman set. Now, Hyper Agent is the romanized official name for the iconic 90s tokusatsu series produced by Tsuburaya freaking Denkou Choujin Gridman. Baby dun dun, baby dun dun. However, you gaijins or weeaboos or Americans like myself probably remember it as Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad, which starred, well, none other than what would be Boy Meets World's Matthew Lawrence. Now, Matthew Lawrence was not a real titular character to the series, but he did play, Ryder Strong's older brother in the show in the later years. Anyways, first off, the Hyper Agent Gridman box, when it's not built and assembled, comes in a weird techno-green case, which promotes your actual sets. Now, I don't know which is supposed to be the front or the back. I'm guessing this has to be the back, because it promotes 03, 04, Twin Driller, and God Tank, whereas the back promotes your actual Gridman and Thunderjet. Like, I don't know which way is supposed to be which, and that's about it. Now, the side box art here looks really awesome because of its weird techno-organic cybernetic green. This is like a color of green that is always used to differentiate data and other etc. and whatnot. And that's going to be like the base art for your box. And then you have just the logo on top. Then inside we have our 4 pieces for the boxes. Now the 4 interior boxes feature the same practical artwork that we've seen on the exterior case for the pieces. However, they're in full color where we see Gridman, God Xenon, Thunder Gridman on the box, and it's a really nice design. I really like the imagery that they use with the actual product to recreate this kind of like pose of the whole combination and our hero thus far in the early arc of the series. We also have the same promotional images for the lineup, where it's Gridman, the actual jet, the Twin Driller, and God Tank, and then on the back we have these wonderful shots of our individual pieces and their forms and their combinations. And I really do like that. However, because Gridman was an interesting virtual reality, cybernetic, alternate dimension tokusatsu series, the actual heights and stats and like measurements don't need to really benefactor into it, but I do like it on the box art when it came to the Sentai Mechas and the actual Super Robot series where it actually gives you the stats. So it's kind of interesting that because they never really materialized in the real world, we don't have specific measurements for them, even though I think the Tsuburaya Bible for them probably does, seeing that we were supposed to have Gridman Sigma that came to our world, and by process spurned on the actual anime series that's currently ongoing. And finally, after a couple of days, we have our Gridman set built. Here we have Gridman with his 3 optional armament, weapons, and vehicles that allow him to become Thunder Gridman. We have Thunderjet, we have Twin Driller, and we have not God Xenon, but God Tank, which will all form God Xenon and also form up on top of Gridman to become the armor-powered, which makes him Thunder Gridman. Honestly, for this set, they look nominally well like the original Takara toys, as well as the Playmates adaptation for Superhuman Samurai Squad, and they just overtly look nice, and the construction is rather tedious in some regards, specifically in Gridman himself, and in our God Tank. Honestly, while they are maybe the more complex builds and constructions in this set, they are not necessarily the problem with it overall. So, before we break it down, let's just start looking at the fact that there are so many little parts that come with this figure, whether it be for Gridman as in shoulder pieces to make broader shoulders, optional hands, or additional things to switch the shield into an axe. We also have the fists for Thunder Gridman, which you can tell are different from God Xenon due to the fact that they are black with silver. That's the first thing, and that goes with the tank itself technically, because the tank forms the shoulders as well as your forearms. Next up is God Xenon's fists. They're just molded in base black plastic and don't allow you to hold the accessories whatsoever. They're just rocket punches of doom for the sake of being rocket punches of doom. And then we have our actual God Xenon head, which is very Optimus Prime-like. the Thunderjet itself, honestly, it's a nice little plane. However, it's very boxy, very blocky, and overly interesting. I remember as a kid, I really did love watching this on Superhuman Samurai Squad, and having seen Gridman in its entirety, it's just kind of weird how it's just very, very simple, I guess you could say, as a plane, as a jet. And while it does tab in rather interestingly with the actual torso and of the Thunder Gridman armament and its overall pectoral area as Xenon, I don't think the landing gear is too entirely sturdy, but it is still level. So it is nice, it is cute, it is very interesting, and highly, highly required stickers. So that might be a knock towards the Super Mini-Pla release. Then we have your left and right foot. Now, these optional parts are for Thunder Gridman specifically, and not God Xenon. And what it is that the bottom of God Tank has like these plates that look like the feet pull down and come out of. But because of how the model kit is very slim, you can't really hide these in there. So they're optional parts where you have a cod piece that, in a sense, exemplifies the heel and sole of the boot. And I think that's one thing I do knock about the Gridman line and the overall toys, whether it be the original ones, whether it be the American ones for Superhuman Samurai Squad, whether it be the Mini-Pla ones, is that it's overtly parts forming. So like I said, with God Tank, it actually is very nice. I've always liked the design of it being very white with blacks and slight blues and oranges. I like the actual tank treads, how they fold and they'll collapse to form our calves and thighs for either formation. And like I said, there are the cod pieces for the soles of the boot. Like I said, it's parts formery. It's kind of annoying. It's obnoxious. But I do like the fact that, as you can see, the tank cannons are on ball joints because they will have to turn and rotate to form our armaments and such for Gridman or become the legs of Xenon. But it does give you a wide range of play as an accessory to being a tank and actually just weapon overall. Now, coming to actual Gridman himself, the Hyper Agent is actually marvelous and wonderful, and it really does capture the original character on screen, who was voiced by none other than the same voice actor who voiced Hiro Yui in Gundam Wing, Hirodaku Mirakawa, I believe. I probably just slaughtered his name because it is one of those ones that even when looking at it and reading it off a sheet, I always never get it 100% correct. So, right here, one thing I've always loved about it is that it's not your typical Tsuburaya hero while trying to be one. It has similarities with Ultraman having the base reds and silvers in there, as well as having somewhat of a slugger in its helmet. He has this very mix of Roman Knight meets, I guess you would say medieval Knight, with the fact he has this nice little cool shield that can double as an axe, and a basic little blade. The cool element about this is actually the stickers. You have some nice metallic ones in the shield, as well as in his torso. I really do like the features here. However, like I said earlier, with the cod pieces, if you were to put them in, it actually causes the stability of the shoulder to wear down because it puts it further off away from the actual slot to tab in. But with the so many points of articulation on it for just a candy toy, it is almost like nearly having the Ultra Act in hand because you have a knee, you have a hip and thigh swivel, you have ankle joints, and you have a, double jointed like abdomen. You have to the pelvis, to the pectoral area. You have shoulders that, swing and hinge. You have bicep swivels. You have elbow joints. You have actual wrist swivels. You have actual forearm swivels. You have the whole 9 yards pretty much here with this figure, as well as a nicely painted accelerator, which was his transformation device, as well as on the back you see the grid-plated armor with the actual thrusters for his back armament, and he has 2 holes in his butt where it attaches into his actual war gown, and a weird sticker that is like a thong on his butt crack. But honestly, it's a very smooth butt. Look at that. It's a nice butt. It is a cute butt. LOL. I gotta say, I think what always has drawn me to Gridman is just its very abnormal design, because it is a Subaraya hero, but it's trying not to be an Ultraman while having so many elements of being one. It has like a beam lantern, it has like a color timer, it has the red, it has the silver, it has like a very Ultraman-like face if he, became a knight or went digital. He also has, a somewhat slugger shape to his head. So overall, it's just one hell of a figure. Now, to remove the weapons, if you were to take them out and just want to display them as normal, you just unplug the tip of your hilt, and it's just a little piece that can get lost easily. So be careful, and because it's on a smaller peg, it can break and it can shatter. And to easily just switch the shield from the axe, you just pull it off the front here, and you have these nice little teeth, as well as you have the spot up here to combine it with the sword. Now, with God Xenon, the combination may look like an easy one, whether it be on screen, whether it be in the instructions. However, the parts don't necessarily want to stay together. Playmates' original toy in the 90s for Gridman Samurai Squad was horribly known for that, whereas the Takara one, not much is known except that similar molds, but one was slightly sturdier than the other. So here we have, like I said, a Mini-Pla form made by Bandai. While it is a nice build for each of the signature pieces, the assembly gets rather weird due to the fact that for the shoulders, being now your hips and thighs, they tend to pop off at the waist joint, which is the back connection point of your twin driller, and there are no technical knee joints. There is a slight joint in the hip here where it's on a hinge, but it starts pushing the actual drill bit off the entire connection and tends to send it off the actual joint. It's a thing that I don't know how to fix, if there is any fix around it, and it does overtly annoy me. The waist, since it is on the twin driller system, it is somewhat there, but it just goes side to side rather than having a real full natural motion or robotic 360. You have shoulders that need to plug into separate holes similar to Live Robo, where when it's in this hole, it is in the actual base jet form, and then when it's up on the top one, you have your more natural shoulder and plate. The actual elbows aren't too bad, but they are slightly hindered and don't get a full flex. The fists, since they are parts formers and supposed to be rocket punches, do come off due to the fact that they are replaceable. However, while the front looks nice, and so does the nice little head here, which does have a ball joint on it, it does tend to pop right off the socket because it's just, like I said, one little small peg that is supposed to hold your entire weighty, meaty Optimus head in place. Like, it is a little bit snug, but it does like to come off. And then you have your back here, which just looks god-awful, and how it pegs together. You can see it just doesn't naturally want to tap into place. So, as a God Xenon set, they are not entirely incredible, and actually hurt this element and aspect of the overall set, whereas individually, they're good, as well as combined with Gridman, which we'll see in a moment, is a whole lot better, but not by too much in some regards, due to the fact that Gridman still has the weird shoulder problem. Once assembling all the pieces on top of Gridman to become Thunder Gridman, the set nominally looks well. As a figure, as a standard, just stoic piece, it looks great. However, there are some minor flaws, and there's actually some pros to this formation whatsoever. So, the best thing I like to say is that, because of its design, the back part here, that is mostly Thunderjet, actually does not make it topple down, due to how bulky the legs are and the engineering of the add-on feet. Like, they're actually pretty sturdy, pretty strong, and they're on a nice ball joint hinge that actually doesn't seem that it'll wear down in time. The thing that you need to worry about is actually Gridman himself, because inside the mold, which is kind of hard to see, the ab starts kind of forming an S. Like, the pecs to the pelvis start making the form of the S, which actually makes me worry that the base Gridman figure will wear down to a bit of additional weight of the nice painted torso. as well as the overtly huge cone shoulders from the drill, as well as the back heaviness of the overall Thunder Jet. So with the God Tank as its legs, it's very sturdy and keeps it well endowed. However, because of how the shoulders are now formed on hinges to the torso, they only can go up so far and they can only change so much due to the interior shoulder armor of the base Gridman figure, who now is slightly hindered. The original suit was actually a hard thing to move around in from what I heard on the show, so it kind of makes sense as to why you're not going to get a full motion to punch or do the Thunder Grid beam. I do like the fact that because it is still based on a peg on the wrist joint, the actual armor can swivel and form different poses, so you do have a bit of playability with the arms still, as well as you still have the range in some of the legs, even though the side skirts may hinder it. So, honestly, it's not that bad of a figure when combined. It's just that the parts forming onto it can start to become a hindrance, as well as start causing the base articulation to fight against the mold. Like the interior shoulders, I do actually recommend removing them so you can have a real wide range of play, even though it won't look anatomically correct. And when using the weird little gaps here on the shoulder things, like to make his shoulders beefier and meatier, I don't really recommend them because it just makes the arms fly right out of the socket. So once you get around those elements, you have a nice standard Thunder Gridman, so I can't really knock it too much. I'm just slightly disappointed that some of the features from the original mold are still apparent when you redesign it and try to make it a more sturdier thing, whether it be a model kit or a deluxe toy. Possibly if they ever were to make a Soul of Chogokin, it might not seem as flimsy and might not fall apart, like say for God Xenon, or just basic parts here for Thunder Gridman, since from time to time I do have to plug the neck and back into place. One thing I also do like is the fact that its Kabuto beetle-like helmet does allow you to swivel and turn it. It is a little harder to give it a full range from left to right on a 45 degree. It's mostly like a 15 to 30 going left to right. It's not that nominal, but it's still nice overall. So for a final evaluation, I think that as Gridman and its individual parts, as well as Thunder Gridman, are the main feature. It's like the main event of the actual set that you'll enjoy. God Xenon is probably one of the worst parts about it, and overly just annoys the hell out of me, because when I was trying to set up for the review and when I was practicing the assembly to see how fast I could do it in, it just flies every which way and kind of can be annoying. So what I do like about it is it's sturdy once you assemble it. However, there are so many pieces, there are so many pieces that are thrown to the side, so you might want to put them in a nice little, I guess you would say jewelry pill box or tackle box to make sure you don't lose them all, or in plastic baggies. As well as the weapons, while they are nice, they seem rather fragile. So it's one of those things where I think diehard Gridman fans or Superhuman Samurai fans will really like having this set, but I don't think everyone who just got introduced to Gridman via the anime should drastically go out and get this right away. Give it some time, watch the Tokusatsu, watch the American adaptation, and then if you like it, go out and get these. You might just have more fun buying, say, the Ultra Axe, or going after the original Playmates action figures more than this. Anyways, I'm Wheelchair21, and if you actually like this review, or you like Gridman or Superhuman Samurai Squad, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe if you already haven't, as well as check me out here on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and I'll see you all next time with another rolling review and or Doyle's DVDs.